Hello, everyone. Welcome to my video series on the heroine's journey. My name is Susanna Liller, and it's time to find your happiness. Now, I get it. I get why I have been so obsessed with the heroine's journey, since I first learned about its sidekick, the hero's journey. The results of our journeys form a tributary, a channel into the mainstream, the invisible river that takes our collective energy and pours it out into the world. This happens at the end of the journey, when a heroine crosses the return threshold and shares her gifts, the gifts she has learned she has because of the journey. We take the journey so we can contribute, so we can get these gifts. It helps us, the journey does, it changes our life, but it also inevitably helps the world. Up until a little over a year ago, I've been focused in my work on the beginning of the journey, hearing the call to go on it in the first place, taking the leap into the unknown. But this talk is about the utmost importance of the end. In Journey Talk, that milestone is called crossing the return threshold and collecting gifts. But I get ahead of myself. We need to talk about the beginning and the middle before we get to the end. So here's the beginning. It all began with the slippers. You know the ones, the ruby slippers. Dorothy gets them from one of the wicked witches in Oz. Actually, she gets them from her feet, sticking out from under Dorothy's home, the farmhouse that blew in on the tornado from Kansas. I had started a business for women, developed from my organizational work doing strategic planning and conflict resolution. That organizational work soon revealed to me that women needed support and encouragement to fully participate in their role, whatever it was in the company. They were holding back. They were being held back, and I knew their participation, what women brought to the table, was so important. I began to work with women on the side to empower them to be their full selves. Soon it was clear that I was asking them to listen to what they already knew, to what their intuition was already telling them, to speak up maybe, or to quit, or to ask for a raise, or to move into another department. I was affirming their own wisdom and told them that there was a part of them that knew exactly what they should be doing next, and to trust that, to get in touch with it and to trust it. The name for this side business dropped in on me one day as I was driving into work in Portland. Ruby Slippers. It dropped in, and there I was. I had landed in the women's empowerment business. I told women that their intuition was like the ruby slippers. Their intuition could always get them to where they needed to go. I handed out ruby slippers pins, and women resonated with Dorothy and her story and the name. In 2007, 7 years into the business, I learned why the symbol of the slippers was so magnetic to women, and to me, and why her story was relatable, Dorothy's story. I got a call, literally and figuratively. The literal call on the phone was my friend Pam telling me I had to travel to Camden that very night and listen to a talk given by a woman about how the Wizard of Oz illustrated the hero's journey. What was that? The hero's journey. I had to know more. And so I got a figurative call later that evening as I sat in a darkened library auditorium and listened to a speaker teach the hero's journey cycle as explained by the author mythologist Joseph Campbell. The journey of the hero, she explained, is a pattern, an archetype that is found in stories and film and has been shared for thousands of years. It's found in the plots of stories and in the scripts of films today. It has endured for thousands of years. And I was transformed, awakened. I was on fire. Ask anybody who was with me during that time. That's all I ever talked about. Here is the larger pattern I saw, encompassing what I had been teaching about intuition and trusting it, and that there was a path. And here was Dorothy illustrating just how this was done. You leave your comfort zone, Kansas, and step into the unknown, and there find many challenges. The witch, the flying monkeys, the trees that throw apples, and you find friends, the Tin Man, the lion, the scarecrow, and Glinda, and you learn what you're capable of, vanquishing a witch. And you return home with the gift of knowing what's important, knowing your priorities. For Dorothy's case, in her case, it was her family. And then for the lion, the gift of courage, the scarecrow, the gift of a brain, and the Tin Man, the gift of a heart. I returned to my women's groups and workshops and started teaching this pattern, the pattern of the hero. Women needed to know about this. This would give them confidence. They were heroines on a journey like Dorothy. They needed to know about the journey that they're on and that there are markers and ways to navigate it. At the same time, I was enrolled in coaching school in California, the Hudson Institute of Santa Barbara. As luck would have it, right luck, how about synchronicity or serendipity or fate, destiny? There was a Hudson coach who took me under her wing, Pat Atson. She shared my interest in the hero's journey. A Jungian analyst, her book, Depth of Coaching, was based on the hero's journey and the pattern. By then, I was referring to the journey as heroines, as I worked primarily with women, and I ultimately wanted it to be relatable. The paper I wrote for my coaching graduation was about the journey and how I could coach women using that framework. I headed home for Maine on fire with my mission. Every woman was a heroine. She was more important than she realized. She needed to be enlightened. So for 15 years, from 2007 to 2022, my enthusiasm flowed into a book, podcast, blog, newsletters. Early on, I did blog talk radio, videos, social media. That was a stretch for me on my heroine's journey. And it has not ebbed, even during the pandemic. The pandemic actually was a big silver lining for me. I had time. I got to create an online course. I took out all the materials I had developed over the years, folder upon folder, from my very first workshop for women given in the Women in Management Conference in Portland in 2000, and all else that I had created since. The course, set within the framework of the heroine's journey, of course, is titled Your Epic Journey of Transformation, which I firmly believe it is. I have been privileged to witness many transformations. So then we get to the middle. That was the beginning. The course has taken off and has different permutations now. Even an app is in the works. It's hard to believe. But wait, I think maybe some of you need to know more about what exactly is the heroine's journey. And that's easy. You could go to my website, susannaliller.com. I created a map, but let me just quickly explain the miles to you. kind of the way I did for Dorothy. And it's not exactly like Campbell's model. My audience is you, busy women. I wanted it accessible, relatable. So the heroine she doesn't know she's a heroine. She's in ordinary life, regular, the daily round, where you're hanging out. And she gets a call, and it might come from, often it comes from inside, but sometimes it comes from outside. Something happens to her, but she always has a choice of how to respond, whether it's within or without. If she responds, if it feels, using her intuition, that this is a true call that's going to grow her, it's something she has to answer, then she does. And she takes a step over an imaginary threshold called the threshold, and into the journey, into the unknown, into where the road of adventure takes her. And she doesn't know, which is part of why it's a big risk. We call it the leap. You don't know what's going to happen. Good things happen, bad things happen. She meets people who help her, and she meets people who are not helpful. And she goes into some blind alleyways and comes to points in the road where you have to make a decision about which way. And you trust your intuition and you keep moving forward. And sometimes, not every journey, and we take many journeys in our lifetime, there's a dragon in the middle of the path. And this is usually some traumatic something or difficult belief that you mucked onto when you were a child, and it's time to look at it. Is this really real? Do I really have to keep living my life according to this belief? Or can I finally dispense with it? So dragons come up. Eventually, there you are at the return threshold. You're done with that particular journey, and it's time to look around you and collect the gifts that you gained from the journey. And most often they are internal gifts, confidence, more insight into something. But sometimes they're financial gifts because of what you've learned. It can be anything. It's very unique to the person. And then the heroine is tasked with returning to her village, to her community, and sharing those gifts. So again, many calls in your lifetime, some small and some monumental. So my work has been mostly focused on the beginning, getting women to hear the call, to respond to it by going into the unknown, leaving their comfort zone, crossing that threshold, helping them navigate while on the journey. The course has loads of tools that help the heroine navigate what we call adventure road. But that end part, crossing the return threshold, getting the gifts, sharing the gifts, I haven't spent a lot of time there until now. So here's the end, the importance of the return threshold and sharing your gifts. I got another call about 1.5 years ago. This one had a hard time getting my attention. I was busy. It actually began tapping on my shoulder in January of 2021. My coaching school friend, Blanca Vergara in the Netherlands, invited me to be a member of her panel on the awakening of the sacred feminine. It was called From Wounds to Wings. Her concept was that women are coming out of a wounded place, thousands of years of not being respected as they should be, and beginning to believe in who they are and what they're capable of, and soaring from wounds to wings. She invited several speakers, among them Anne Baring and Jean Shinoda Bolen, well-known authors, speakers, feminists who write and speak about the importance of recognizing and assisting in the rise of the sacred feminine in the world today. The sacred feminine. So this was something I had to learn about. And here's the definition, and believe me, there are many. And this one comes from an article that was in the magazine Spirituality and Health by Amy Peck. The sacred feminine is a concept that recognizes that God, the universe, whatever you want to call the unnameable, ultimately is neither male nor female, but a divine essence beyond form, beyond duality, an essence that is in balance and unification of the masculine and feminine principles, a dynamic, interdependent presence that pervades all life. So what then would honoring the sacred feminine look like? And from the same article, Amy Peck says in the spiritual sense, it means valuing the feminine part, the feminine principle, along with the masculine principle, both as equal and fundamental parts of the divine. From a planetary level, it means respecting and healing our Mother Earth. From a cultural standpoint, revivifying the archetype of the goddess through all means, entertainment, the arts, using languages that include she and her. In the societal sense, it means recreating the role of priestess and respecting the contribution of women in business, science, art, politics, as well as in the home and community. In a religious view, it means offering ceremony and service that reaffirms our connection to the divine, the goddess, the earth, and each other. And in the human sense, honoring the sacred feminine means especially valuing the innate worth of women's mind, body, and soul, as well as appreciating the feminine qualities in the male character. We have both male and female qualities in each of us. So here I was being interviewed to be on this panel of known speakers in the world of the sacred feminine. And I had to step way back and ask, why me? And that was after I did my duty. I was interviewed by Blanca. I talked about my desire to share about the heroine's journey, which she knew, even though I didn't, was very much a piece of the sacred feminine. But after the panel, I went into study mode. I'm really still into it. I was listening to my new call to learn more. In January of this year, every time I wrote my blog, which was about learning about the sacred feminine, I started with this. I've declared that I'm on a stay-at-home pilgrimage. I'm studying and learning about the sacred feminine. I'm going to continue with this theme until either the enormity of the task does me in, quite possible, or completely overwhelms me, more than likely, or until it leads me to, who knows? This truly is a journey into the unknown. I've invited you to come along. Thank you for being here. I hope we'll all learn something. So that was the mission of my blog and a lot of my videos since January. I have learned that the heroine's journey is a journey to unleash one's own form of sacred feminine into the world. The journey gets one closer and closer to one's true identity. It's about peeling off all the layers that aren't us, that were added on to please others, fit in, achieve success. So then I've asked myself, why wouldn't it be me then to be on that panel? That's what I have been doing, using this vehicle of the heroine's journey framework. That was my original call that night in that dark auditorium in Camden. Please know that I am still learning. My current definition of the sacred feminine as it relates to my work, each unique awakening in each woman as they travel through the journey brings the sacred feminine more to the fore, more into that imaginary river. It rises when they accept their call and they follow it. Then they get to the important part. They take what they've learned on their journey, their gifts received, and they come back to their village, their community, whatever that is, the people around them, and they share those gifts. The gift sends out ripples. The sacred feminine spreads out into the world, one heroine at a time. So it's about doing the work. Women who immerse themselves in understanding how their lives are in the pattern develop a clarity about what they're here to do. They uncover their light, their personal contribution to the sacred feminine. They are working to align, become congruent, connect with what I call their acorn self, the full potential of who they're meant to be, just like the acorn is fully meant to be that mighty oak. Women are answering, I can tell you, women are answering their call. Frederick Bucher, his quote, "The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet." I want you to get to that place, the place inside of you where your minds, hearts, and hands are in sync, where they are doing what their inner acorn intended. And I believe if you connect inside first, you will do better with what you decide to do in the outer world. Inner congruence, alignment, balance is necessary to outer effectiveness. So this heroine's journey work, it so excites me because it's part of a much larger whole. This whole of putting the sacred feminine out into the world, in a world that needs it greatly. So I see now that what was calling me back in 2012 was part of a much larger movement that encompasses many women wanting to do the same. So many books now are about the sacred feminine. You can find them everywhere. Women are rising. I'm sure this is why I was compelled to learn more about the sacred feminine. It is something stirring inside of all of us, male and female, the need to bring balance back to our small, precious blue planet and within ourselves. So thank you for being here and listening to me talk on about my callings. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope you'll stay tuned and listen in the next time one of my videos goes out. And remember, you are a heroine and you are on the journey.